Well over half of the world's population now lives in busy cities or urban areas. And if you're anything like me, it's likely that sometimes that can feel overwhelming and you can feel overstimulated, and like sometimes it just gets to be a lot. My name is Farida, but some of my friends call me Fairy. And welcome to Fairy's Nook, which is my little corner of the internet where I talk about all things slow living, intentional living, and a lot of the times I will also talk about plant care. I live in Lagos, Nigeria, which is easily one of the most high energy cities in the world. But I've lived in a lot of other cities as well around the world. And in each of these locations, at some point, I've always felt this sense of overwhelm. Because we're living in these busy cities where everything is go, 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 and it is completely unforgiving for people who are maybe a bit more sensitive and susceptible to stress or overwhelm. It takes a while before you realize, and sometimes maybe people don't, that you need to factor in coping mechanisms to basically deal with that pace of life so that you can still exist and your nervous system can be regulated and you can still pursue your dreams and your aspirations without completely losing yourself. This is something that I've really struggled with. I am a highly sensitive person. I'm sensitive to sound. I'm sensitive to interactions. I'm sensitive to just so many things. And growing up in a city like this and living in cities all over the world, I've had to figure out ways to kind of adapt to my environment, especially when I didn't have a choice in changing that environment. So this is what I want to talk about on this channel, because I imagine that if it's something that I've struggled with, there are other people that struggle with this too. Sometimes it has felt like other people are better able to manage the experience of living in like a high electricity kind of city. But I figure that maybe I'm not alone in kind of struggling with that a bit. But I've managed to create coping strategies, even when I couldn't change my immediate environment, that kind of calm me down and regulate my nervous system and just make it a bit more possible for me to navigate this like busy city life. Cities can actually make people well overall, depending on how they're designed. If they're designed well and there is a lot of access to greenery, there's a lot of access to walking, or the city is designed for pedestrians, there's access to good healthcare. Cities are not like a blanket negative. That's not at all what I'm saying. There's so much more access to activity and, sometimes even creativity when you live in a city. So there definitely are positives, but like where I live, it is far from being well designed. But even within that, it's possible to design your life with intention in such a way that it doesn't feel as overwhelming as it could. So I'm going to start off with something that is so simple and so basic that it's almost kind of annoying when you think about it. But when you're in the go, go, go of city life, sometimes you literally forget to breathe. Like I find myself a lot of times, if it comes to mind for me to breathe, that's when I realize that it's almost like I'm stuck on an inhale because you're constantly on alert. So one thing that has really helped me just slow down my pace of life is remembering at different intervals during the day to just stop and take a breath. Sometimes it could be 5 breaths, sometimes it could be 10, but just making sure that I take a moment to just still my mind and allow myself to calm down. So one of the ways I do this is with box breathing. And that's where you inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, and then hold for 4 seconds. So you do this sort of in a square. And sometimes it takes just 5 breaths. Sometimes I have to do a lot more, but I feel my body calm down as I fill my lungs with air. And it really sounds so simple because it is, but it is actually quite beneficial. And just getting that oxygen flowing through your body and up to your brain is a fantastic way to calm you down and just help deal with the day-to-day stresses of living in these concrete jungles. Once I've done this box breathing, it clears up my mind. But another thing that frees up the clutter in my mind is just journaling or making lists. Some people find it quite difficult to journal. I think, which is just my theory, is that sometimes when you're journaling, you have an imaginary audience to what you're writing. But if you remember that it's just you and you're just emptying your brain, and honestly, you can write this stuff down and burn it or cut it up. You don't necessarily have to keep a journal, even though I highly recommend that. Journaling is just a fantastic way to free up your mind. A lot of times when we live in these cities, we constantly have an endless to-do list. And if you don't have that out of your brain and onto a piece of paper or onto a piece of software, like even on your calendar, it can be really overwhelming. Keeping all that information on your brain is not the best. So I always recommend pouring your heart into a journal, or if it comes to just errands or things that you have to do, just physically making a to-do list, well, physically or digitally, just to get it out of your head and onto a different canvas. Something that holds people back sometimes is seeing the big picture. And I know that I've struggled with it. In fact, I continue to struggle with this, if I'm honest, where I feel overwhelmed because I'm thinking of all the big things I need to do and not honing in on the little steps or the little tasks that are between me and the end goal. So for example, at the moment, I'm in the middle of moving house, and it's something that had been overwhelming me. Like every day I'd be thinking like, we need to pack. There's so much stuff that we need to do to move everything from house A to house B. But then one day I decided to just break it up into all the little things, the different rooms, the different people, all the logistics that go into moving, and just getting all that out of my head and then moving the tasks into a calendar. And now that we're close to actually moving, I've moved the tasks into time blocks as well on the calendar. And I cannot explain how much lighter I feel just from having done that. I don't fancy myself as a productivity guru or anything, but I do find that the more organized I am and the more I sort of plan things out, it really frees up the space in my brain and just regulates my nervous system a lot more. And of course, it wouldn't be me if I don't talk about this other thing that brings me so much joy and helps me stay calm and sane while surrounded by concrete. And of course, that is growing plants. I absolutely love plants, and it's not like a niche, quirky thing. It's literally just a biological response. Human beings are supposed to live in tandem with nature. We're not supposed to have this much separation from nature, from trees, from water, from fresh air. Here in Lagos, we literally are by the Atlantic, but it's so challenging to get access to the beach. Things like that are so crazy to me. And I don't know, like, anyway, I'll get into that in another video maybe. But just the act of growing plants, not just being surrounded by plants, but actually nurturing them is so calming. And I know another thing that city life takes away from us is hobbies, because we feel like we constantly need to be in the hustle. But honestly, there's so many people around me, including like staff and people that work with me, that have, from me keeping and growing and nurturing plants, have developed an interest in plants, and I'm always happy to share cuttings with them. And so no matter where you are, you can live in the tiniest space, you can live in a massive house, like wherever you are, just having plants around you is scientifically proven to regulate your nervous system and just calm you down. If you look at a lot of cities, and you know, there are places in the world that do this, that don't do this rather, but a lot of cities sacrifice nature in order to build structures like houses or roads or bridges. And of course, this infrastructure is necessary, but it really takes away from just our biological need to be surrounded by nature. And so when you are driving or walking around on the streets of somewhere like Lagos, which in and of itself is not even pedestrian friendly, it can be very overwhelming to just have no shade and no cover from the sun. And so no wonder when people get into altercations on the streets, it gets very heated because the sun is literally burning down on your head. So I think we greatly underestimate the importance of having greenery and having shade cover and just being in tune with the ecosystem around us. Hearing birds chirp when you wake up in the morning, things that we take for granted, but they really, really do make a difference for our mental health. So we might not solve the tree cover problem in Lagos today, but I just want to recommend that even if you bring a small snake plant into your house, just have some greenery around you and contributes to us greening our city a bit more, if you can. Another thing that I would recommend is just finding things that bring you joy. I mentioned this a little while ago about how living in these bustling cities can take away our hobbies, but we actually have to be so intentional about bringing these things back into our lives. I, for example, love to dance. Like when I say love, I love to dance. And I discovered this Zumba class on Friday mornings that is just so much fun. It's like a 50-minute class. It's super intense, but honestly, I have tingles on my body when I do this class because I'm just so ecstatic about it. And so finding something, it could be anything. I also love knitting, even though I haven't done that in a little while. I love reading. I love playing with my child and just exploring outside, watering my plants with my daughter. Like just anything that will bring you joy and make you happy, you have to find a way to incorporate it into your life as often as possible. Slow living isn't always about doing things slowly. It's also about doing things with intention. And so if you have anything that maybe you loved as a child, or maybe when you were a student and you've kind of let it go from your life, I would recommend considering a way to bring it back, even if it's just for half an hour in a week or something. Like just finding something that brings you joy and making sure that it's a part of your life. And lastly, one of the things that has really helped me survive in these concrete jungles is having at least one consistent wellness practice that I try to incorporate into my day. And I try to make sure that that's physical and that's mental. So on the mental side, my morning routine is really non-negotiable. For my morning routine, I always make sure that it's calm, that it's quiet, that it's slow. I have a toddler, so it doesn't always go according to plan, but I try to make sure that I'm up 1 or 2 hours, preferably before her, so I can get a slow morning in order to start my day with a bit of calm. That allows me to just take care of my mind and set me up for a good and mentally stable day. It doesn't always work, but I'd say like 90% of the time, if I start my days like that, it works out for me. And on the physical side, I've been trying, especially in the last few months, because I fell off for a bit, but I've tried to make sure that I get some sort of greens into my system. The way we eat here, generally you will get some color, you'll get some tomatoes or some peppers in your diet, but just being intentional about making sure that there's some green in there as well. And of course, drinking lots of water, just anything that is even one thing that you can put in the bank every day. And when I say bank, I mean the wellness bank every day, just to make sure that you are taking care of yourself and just being intentional about caring for your body and for your mind. So these are just a few things that I will expound on in the future as I make more videos like this. But I just really have struggled over the years with balancing this feeling of overwhelm and overstimulation, and the different coping mechanisms that I've adopted that have made it so much easier for me to just survive in living in cities everywhere around the world. I feel as though I would be remiss not to share. If there's anything I mentioned that is relatable to you or that is new to you, please feel free to tell me in the comment section. I'm going to make a lot more videos around plant care, around intentional living, and just around mental health, because I think it's something we're all really struggling with in different ways and in different capacities. And it doesn't have to be that way. I think there are a lot of things that I have discovered that have really helped me manage that, and I really, really want to share that. So thank you for watching this video, and I look forward to the next one.